Welcome to Skybreak Church. We would love for you to check us out online or on our app to share your story or to support us financially. We know that this message will be a blessing to you and your life. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome, everybody. On behalf of Janet and I and our family, we just want to say Merry Christmas to you. We're so happy to have you here on this Sunday night. And it's been said already, but if you're new, we just want to welcome you home. We want to welcome you to Skybreak and to this incredible family here tonight. We just believe that all of us are on a journey, a spiritual journey, and I don't know where you're at. Sometimes I wonder where I'm at. Come on, can we just be honest, right? If you're going to be transparent, you ought to be that in church. So sometimes you're like, where's God at, right? And God's like, I'm here all the time. How many of you have ever been there before? But I'm glad to know that I'm walking the right direction and I got the right people around me. And at Skybreak, we just want to welcome you to wherever you are in your spiritual journey, because God has something special for every one of you. And he designed our lives on purpose. You're not here by accident on this planet, and we want to help you discover that and fulfill that and find out what God has for your life. That's what Skybreak is all about, so we're glad to have you tonight. There's an interesting story in the New Testament, and I want to talk about it for a few minutes. And I want to start with asking you a question. And that question is this: what do you do when you're thinking something good is going to happen, but it doesn't? What do you do when you're expecting something great and instead it turns out nothing like you anticipated? Well, we've all been there, right? In the Old Testament, the prophet Isaiah declared these words. He said, "Unto us a child is born." He's prophesying about Jesus. "Unto us a son is given, and he will sit on the throne of his father David." Now that's interesting, because God's people through time were looking for a prince, a soon-to-be king. They were looking for a palace. They were looking for a place of royalty, that God was going to come in that fashion. But that's not what happened at all. In fact, instead of a palace, they found a barn, a stable. Instead of royalty, Joseph, Jesus' stepdad, was a carpenter. Instead of sitting on a throne, they found a baby lying in a manger filled with hay among sheep and donkeys. They were expecting one thing, but what they found was completely different than what they were looking for. So let's be real honest, all right? It's Christmas, right? I mean, this is Christmas. It's tomorrow and Tuesday. And it's supposed to be a time for gifts and family, a time for friends and food and more food and more food, right? I mean, forget keto and all these other special names we give these crazy things we call diet, and just eat, okay? You can diet next year. It's only a few days away. That's Christmas, a time for food. It's a time for celebration. But instead of chestnuts roasting on an open fire, that's why I'm doing this part and they did that part. But instead of that, instead of family gathered around, people find themselves waiting in an emergency room. Instead of laughter and celebration, you're told you have to start chemotherapy again. Instead of family gathered around, you're facing divorce. Instead of good times, you were given a termination notice at work. I'm expecting something good to happen, but my current experience is anything but that. So what do you do? How do you respond when hopes and dreams don't turn out like you planned? Now, may I ask, totally off the record, an honest question, and ask you to participate I'm going to participate. How many of you would say that there's been some part of your life, at least till this point, that happened that you did not plan, that you didn't expect? It just happened, and you're just living it out. Anybody want to just join me here? I'm going to raise both hands, okay? Come on, hold them high. I want to make sure I'm among friends tonight. Wow. Okay, thank you. Isn't it true that every one of us have times in our life when we followed a dream that looked so promising, only to find that in the end it didn't turn out like we thought? Well, that's exactly what the Christmas story is, right? Wise men followed a star, but they found a stable. The story in Matthew tells us what they did when things didn't turn out like they expected. Let me read the verse to you in Matthew chapter 2. It says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Magi, or wise men, came asking, where is he who is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star and have come to worship him. Verse 11 says, and when they saw the child with Mary his mother, they fell down and they worshiped him, and opening their treasures, they presented to him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Interesting story, isn't it? There's a whole lot we could read there, but if you know anything about Christmas, you understand that story. You've heard a little bit about the wise men, the three wise men, many acclaim it was. And what is it that enables wise men to turn stables of their life into stepping stones? So this is what you do when you're expecting something good to happen, but it doesn't. I want to leave you with a couple of thoughts that you can go home with tonight, because so many of us raised our hand. I'm living that. Many of us are living that. What do you do when the things you're anticipating that are going to happen? I mean, it's the holidays. It's supposed to be fun, but you got all of this other stuff going on. Here's what the wise men did, and I want to challenge you to do the same. Number one, wise men always look for God. When facing difficult situations, wise men know God must be here somewhere. You heard the story about the little boy who had a large box for Christmas, all wrapped up under the tree. And it was a huge box, and his parents, I guess, were trying to pull one of those sneaky ones on, like we do sometimes. You know, you try to disguise a gift. Anybody ever done that? You know, it's a ring, but it costs you that much, so you wrap it in a car box, right? Y'all missed that somewhere. The little boy, he sees that huge box, he opens it up, and man, he's digging around, and he looks right there on the top, and he finds a brand new pair of cowboy boots. And he's so excited, and he takes the boots out, and he puts them on, and he's like, man, these are awesome. But then he looks back at the box, and there's paper still all in the box, and then he dives into that box, and paper's going everywhere, and and his parents said, son, what are you doing? He said, with these boots and that big box, there's got to be a horse in here somewhere. But there wasn't. Silly parents. What do you do when you're expecting something good and it turns out different? These wise men followed a star, but they find a stable. And in the middle of their perplexity, they choose to do something that each of us have to make a choice to do. They choose to look for God even in the unexpected. Yesterday morning, Janet and I are sitting in the bed early. I'd already gotten up, had coffee, came back, and she was sitting up, and the blinds are open, the beautiful sunshine, and she was looking outside, and I saw a tear running down her face. And I said, are you okay? She said, I'm fine. I'm just thankful, and I'm looking out, seeing the beautiful trees and the blue sky, and I just am glad that I feel good to enjoy the beautiful things God has created right outside. I don't know where you are, but let's use an example. Joseph in the Old Testament. Now, don't get confused, because there's a couple of Josephs in the Bible, all right? This is Joseph in the Old Testament. He was a wise man. He understood how to find the good even in his struggles. He was betrayed by his brothers. He was sold by them into slavery. He was lied about at Potiphar's house. And then he was completely forgotten about in prison. It was like one setback after another. But eventually God raised him to become the prime minister of Egypt. And when Joseph's brothers came seeking help because of the famine that was in the land, they didn't recognize Joseph, but he recognized them. And Joseph said, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. He looked for God even in the unexpected. That's what you've got to do. You've got to see the smile of a child. You've got to hear the laughter of someone out in the mall. You've got to realize that even the beauty of the sunrise or the sunset, God is everywhere, and you have to choose to see him. Some people only see God in the good. Wise men look for God in both, and they find the good even in the difficulties. You see, what do you do when you're expecting something good to happen and it doesn't? You look for God anyway because he's there somewhere. Just keep looking. And I think if you'll start writing the list, the things that are obvious at first will become a longer list of all the other things you thank God for that you have a right to be thankful for every single day. Here's another thing. What do you do when you're expecting something good and doesn't turn out the way you thought? Wise men, these wise men recorded in Matthew, still gave God their best. Now don't miss this. The wise men gave gifts of gold and frankincense and myrrh, and they were all very costly, very precious gifts. And there's a whole analogy behind that. There's a teaching you could understand why they gave those gifts. That's not my message tonight. But let me say it to you this way. They gave expensive gifts. Here's the point. Sometimes when things get tough, instead of giving our best, we're tempted to hold out. In other words, when we should give our best, we're tempted to give our least. Let me say it this way. The marriage isn't what it should be or could be, so maybe I'll just hold back and keep my feelings to myself. I won't really talk about it. When a time when you should be leaning in, you're leaning out. My job isn't working out this year like it has, like I'd like for it to. And so maybe I'll just slack up. Maybe I'll just show up late. Maybe I'll just let them know what they're missing by me not being there in my performance and not give them my best. Listen, maybe it's a time we realize that if in a tough time, if you'll lean in and if you'll give your best, even when you don't feel like giving your best, that's really still the best thing to do. Let me say it this way. Just because things aren't working out like you thought doesn't mean it's okay to quit. When things get tough is exactly when you need to focus on giving your best. When things get tough, y'all remember cassette recorders, right? Some of you don't. Like, what did he just do? You don't rewind a DVD, do you? But I just rewound. I'm going to say it again. When things get tough is exactly when you need to focus on giving your best. That's what wise men do. The wise men didn't say, well, it's just a baby born in a barn to just some normal people. There's not a palace. We didn't find what we were looking for. It's certainly not what we expected, so I guess we'll just walk away. They didn't do that. They came realizing that sometimes the most beautiful opportunities come wrapped in the most simple of displays. Don't miss the glorious in the simple and realize God is there and he still deserves your best. And even when you're challenged, and even when things seem to be fighting against you, go ahead and lean in and give your best and see what God will do. Who knows that giving your best in the most difficult time may be the defining moment in your life? Man, I'm preaching better than you're saying yeah. Pretty good for a Christmas almost Eve. Hey, we're going to have to name that. Christmas almost Eve service. Okay, that's where we are. Wise people give their best and then some. Say those words, and then some. Wise people give their best and then some. Oh no, you're supposed to say it with me again. Ready? Wise Okay, I got you thoroughly confused. Everyone say, and then some. Okay, I'm going to say something, and then you say, people forgive. Wise men go the extra mile. They give the extra effort, and then some. The average person may take the easy path, but don't expect me to go out of my way. But the wise person always gives their best in every circumstance, no matter the situation. Here's my last thought. What do you do when you're expecting something good, but it doesn't turn out like that? Wise men change their direction in life. What do you mean by that? Verse 12 of the same story in Matthew says that after finding the child and offering their gifts and listening to the voice of the angel, the wise men departed for their own country. Notice these last three words: by another way. If Christmas is anything, hear this. It is the story of God changing worlds so he could help us change ours for the better. When you really understand Jesus for who he is and allow him to be real in your life's direction will change forever in your life. The story here in the Bible is that the Herod of the time, the emperor, he told the wise men, he said, when you find this baby Jesus, you come tell me where he's at. I want to go worship him. When in fact he didn't want to worship Jesus at all. He wanted to take his life because he had heard there was a king being born and it was a threat to him. And that's why the wise men went home a different way. Here's the point. When wise men meet God, they always go home a different way than they came. Can I tell you something? You need to know, hear this from this pastor tonight. You need to know that God came to get you out of the circumstance, out of the misery, out of the mundane, out of the ordinary. He came to get you out of the circumstance you may find yourself in right now because he really does love you. That's why God came in the form of a baby named Jesus. You need to know that God came to set you free from the struggles that are keeping you from discovering and living the fulfilled life that God has for you. Maybe you're here tonight, and like me, you've been following a star, but the dream has led you to a stable, and things aren't turning out exactly like you thought. I want to remind you, look for God, because he's in the middle of that situation somewhere if you'll just look hard enough. Give your best. When you look at your situation and you think it's not worth it, give your best anyway. You won't regret it. And God wants you to know him and find new direction for your life and new hope and new peace he has for you. And that can start right here tonight on Christmas Eve, before Christmas Eve. Come on. Hey, I want to invite you just to bow your heads, please, just across the room. And would you just pray this prayer in your own way? I'm going to say a prayer, and I'm just going to ask you to, in your own way, just to repeat it. Just say the words that you feel are appropriate for you, because it's a real important message. Jesus, I'm looking for you in the middle of my life right now. Help me to always give my best, even when I want to give up. I want to know you, and I want to find that new direction that you've promised for my life right now, tonight. So I invite you to lead me and to be the Lord of my life, and I surrender everything to you to follow you. Jesus, I pray this in your name. Amen. I'm going to invite you to remain still And I want to introduce something brand new to our Christmas services tonight, and that's a candlelight moment. Will you light that for me? You ever tried anything new before? We're going to try it tonight. We're going to be passing out candles down each row. Parents, you discern if your children are of age to not catch the church on fire. Okay? But we want them to be a part. The power of one light. The power of one light. Jesus said, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand." You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to rewind and let all these candles get passed out, because I want you to hear this. Please take one and everybody good? Our ushers were lighting them a little bit soon, but I guess that's okay. We'll just keep on. See, this is brand new. That's what I'm saying. If you haven't lit a candle yet, just stay where you are. Those that are lit are fine. Just keep those where you are, because I want to make a point. Okay, this is one light right here. You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp. Instead, they put it on its stand and give its light, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light so shine so that others may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. From one light, can you see it going on tonight? Even while I'm talking, one light starts another and starts another and starts another. I'm going to ask them to dim the lights way down, if you would, just for a moment. Keep on going. You can take mine way down too if you'd like. Can you see my face all right? It's probably better this way. One light begins to light another. You are a city set on a hill for all to see, the Bible says. Church, listen to me. God saved you to make a difference. If you believe that, say yes with me. God saved you to make a difference. Your reason for being on this planet is to let your light shine to as many people and in as many dark places as we can, so others can see the goodness of our God. Jesus also said, no one lights a candle and then puts it under a bowl, but on a stand. So you are the light of the world. Every one of us. The power of one light, your light. It started by lighting one, and then it began to another and to another and to another. I'm going to ask you to hold your lights up as high as you can just for a moment. Would you look around? How beautiful is that tonight? The power of one light. Listen, what I want to tell you is you matter. You have a voice. Use it for good. Use it for God. You say, but I'm only one person. What can I do? You may not be able to change the world, but you can touch one person. You can change one light. You can bake one pie. You can love one neighbor. You can befriend a coworker. You can touch somebody. You can make a difference for someone. Then they can make a difference for someone else, and then the next, and then the next, and so on. Never underestimate the power of one light. It can do more than you can imagine. Join me in this beautiful Christmas song. Let's sing it now, Silent Night. Let's go, everybody. Come on, let's sing it together. Would you stand with me and kindly distinguish, like blow out your candle? There will be ushers at the doors as you leave to deposit those candles on the way out tonight. Janet and I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. And let me fill you in about next Sunday. Next Sunday, December the 30th, we have one service at 10 a.m. We'd love to have you join us right here in the arena. Children's ministry will be back at normal, and we'll have a wonderful time. We wish you all a Merry Christmas. Look for God. He's there somewhere. Have a great holiday this week. We love you, everybody. Can you join me in a big hand clap? Thank you for being with us tonight. Drive safe. We love you. God bless you.